Hello and welcome to the final video in our Hackintosh series, where today we will be doing the final install of macOS Big Sur onto our Lenovo M93p tiny computer. Now I'm just booting up the Lenovo here and pressing F1 so we can enter the BIOS. There we go. So we need a USB keyboard and mouse plugged into the computer. We need the USB install disk that we created in the last two videos, and we also need a wired Ethernet connection to the internet. You can either use the Ethernet port on the back, which should work because we've got the KEX set up from last video, or we can use a USB to Ethernet adapter, which also works fine. So in the BIOS here, I'm just going to show you a few settings. Here's the system summary. Using i5 4590T and 8 GB of memory. As you can see, there's no actual hard drive in the SATA port. That's the SATA port that is with the 2.5-inch normal hard drive caddy. What I've actually done for this computer, I've done a hardware mod to the motherboard where I've repopulated the missing mSATA port and installed a working 128 GB solid state mSATA drive directly to the motherboard. So in essence, I've doubled the hard drive storage capacity of this computer. If there's enough feedback, I'll actually do a video on that mSATA mod. It's not too difficult, it just needs a bit of micro soldering and a bit of patience. So if you leave a comment, I may or may not make that video. So that's the system summary. Now if we go across to devices and down to ATA drive setup, just make sure that AHCI is enabled for configure SATA. We don't need any advanced, don't need any power. If you go to security and down to secure boot, just ensure that secure boot is disabled. On startup, make sure boot mode is UEFI only, and go to your primary boot sequence and ensure that the USB stick is basically the first media to boot. Don't worry if it's not, you can change it here or just press F12 on boot and that'll bring up the boot selection menu. So all my settings are correct, so I'll just exit out of here and it'll just now boot off the USB flash drive. Now this may take a while. My USB stick's got a red light on that shows activity, which is useful. Otherwise you might think it's hung, but no, it just needs to take its time. The initial step of the install, it will actually decompress files off the USB stick, so it will take some time to read and verify. Now this is the open core boot menu. You may just have one setting here, one selection. If that's the case, press spacebar and you should get a couple more options. That's actually one of the settings in the config.p list that we changed, but in case you didn't change it, that's where you have to press the spacebar. Now USB is your USB stick. What we need is USB, brackets DMG. DMG is the recovery program. So we just select that, so press number 2 or just press enter onto it, and that'll boot into action the recovery process. So what this is doing now, it's accessing that recovery image on the USB stick, reading the files, decompressing them in memory, and it will boot into the Apple recovery utility. And this may take a couple of minutes as it reads all those files and decompresses them. And you may also hear my Lenovo's little fan spinning up in the background as it does all the hard work of decompressing those files. But give it a minute. Yeah, my little red light's still flashing, so still having disk access. You might think it's hung, but give it a minute. There we go. Let me get the output. So it'll scroll through its output, and then hopefully the little Apple logo will appear. There we go. So now it's just booting up the Apple recovery utility. And this is why you need a mouse installed, because you can only use a mouse on this utility. It shouldn't take that long. There we go. So it's just scanning our hard drives. So we've got a few options here. First thing we need to do is go to Disk Utility. There we go. So as you see, I've got one internal M-SATA drive and the external USB. So if you're using just a normal SATA drive, that'll be here too. If you do the mod, that'll be here also. So select the drive that you want your install to happen on. So I'm using the M-SATA. You right click and we go to erase. I'll leave it as M-SATA and change the format to APFS and just click on erase, and that will format the hard drive. Done pretty quick. So once that's formatted, you can see I've got 127 gigs free for the operating system. So we'll just get out of that. Now we go to reinstall Big Sur. Double click and click on continue. There's a check your internet connection. If you haven't got an internet connection, it'll tell you here that you need a network connection to continue, but you should find it okay. If you get to this here, you know that your internet connection is fine, and just agree to that. I have agreed. Select your hard drive that you want to install onto, and it says it will take 2 hours and 90 minutes, but don't be afraid, these are Apple minutes. They're the same as Google minutes and Microsoft minutes. This process should take, with a decent internet connection, about 30 to 40 minutes. It will reboot a couple of times, just leave it. You don't have to interact with the keyboard at all, and it'll just go through its process, and then I'll join you as it boots into its initial setup. So I'll see you in however minutes it takes. So this was the fourth reboot. I didn't have to touch it at all, we just did everything automatically, and hopefully this should just go straight into the setup process. That's a good sign. And there we go. So just get your mouse, select your country. Ooh, yeah. There's the fan spinning up in the background. Continue, not now. Continue. We don't want to migrate any data. We want to set up an Apple ID later. Yes, we do want to skip. We do agree to the terms and conditions. Agree. Okay. So let's type in a name. Let's type in. There we go. Password. Type in anything you want. Oh, and then you have to verify. Click on continue. And this should boot straight into the desktop. Oh, we've got to select all of these things now. Apple wants your data. Set that up later. Disable Siri. We'll have a dark theme. Okay. So we need to press the key immediately to the right of the shift key. There we go. And here we are. We are in Mac OS. So before we start anything, I'm just going to change my screen resolution so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So you don't need this obviously, just for the benefits of this video. So we'll set it down to 720p. There we go, that's a lot better. And as you can see here, about this Mac, we're on Big Sur, got 2 GHz Intel i5, and we've got 8 GB of RAM. We're using that mSATA built-in drive, and we've got Intel HD graphics, and we've got no serial number set. So that's one of the processes we need to do now to finalise the install. Right, the first problem is there's no boot data on the actual hard drive, it's all still on the USB stick. So at the moment we need that USB stick installed in order to load the bootloader, in order to load macOS. So obviously we don't want to carry on doing that, we need to have the bootloader installed on our hard drive. So the easiest way of doing that is just copying the EFI folder from our USB stick onto our hard drive. But first, the EFI folder on our hard drive is actually locked down by default for security reasons, so we have to mount it. Now there's lots of tools you can use to mount the EFI folder, but it's actually easy to do in the terminal. Okay, so we just load up a terminal, so you use your spotlight up there to search for terminal. There we go, or use it down there. Okay, so the actual utility installed on the Mac called diskutil. So if you just do diskutil and list and press enter, it's to list all the disks and partitions on your Mac. And as you can see here, we've got a special one, partition just for EFI, and it's got this label here, disk 0S1. So we're just going to take a copy of that, and to mount it, what we do is do sudo, so that's sudo, then diskutil again, and the command mount, and we just paste that label in and press enter. It'll ask you for your password, just type in your normal password, and there we go. That is the EFI folder mounted. If you go to Finder, there it is there. So just enter there, you see it's empty. So we go to USB disk and simply drag the EFI folder into there, and that is the EFI copied and mounted. So now we can just remove our USB stick, and we won't need that again. Right, now the next process excuse me, is to sort out the serial numbers. So we can use Apple ID, FaceTime, all that good stuff. My internet connection is a bit slow, so Safari is having difficulty connecting to the internet. So I'm just going to download Firefox. It's a quicker browser to use. So let's download Firefox in the background. It shouldn't take too long, hopefully. Yeah. Wait that to download, and I'll be back when it's finished downloading. So that's Firefox downloaded, so now let's just install it. So we go to our downloads folder, there's Firefox package, just double click. We don't need to verify it, I'm just going to skip that. That's almost done anyway. There we go, and then just drag it to applications. Shut that and get rid of that. If we go to applications, there we go, there's Firefox. There we go, that should work a lot better. Right, now the first thing we need to do on this Mac is update Python, because it uses an old version of Python. So is not very good, so just type in python.org. There we go, and we'll go to downloads for macOS. Oh, That always gets me. The scroll wheel on the Mac is the wrong way around. Yeah, so let's download Python 3.13. I think we're on Python 2 point something on Big Sur, which has been depreciated for about a year. So the proprietary program that we'll want to use won't actually run unless you update Python. I'll just click on it there to open it when it's complete. And continue, 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 agree, and install. And ask you a password. And there we go, that's Python 3.1 install. We'll just close that. And there we go. Now to update the Apple ID and board number and serial numbers on our Mac, we need to change the config.p list that is now on our hard drive within that EFI folder that we copied across from the USB stick. So from the last video, you know that to change the config.p list we need to actually install a program called proprietary. So we go to the internet and we go to proprietary. Press enter. There we go. It's by a developer called Cornute. So just click on his Git repo and download his code. There we go. And to actually update the serial number, we need another one of his programs called genSMBIOS. So just copy on his, click on his Git repo there, and just go to genSMBIOS there, and download the code for that too. Done, done, done. And then we'll just get rid of that. So if we go to our downloads folder, we should have 2 zip files. Just double click to extract. Oh, don't want to do that. Move to bin. There we go. And we'll just get rid of those there. Okay, if you go to the proprietary, we need to launch the proprietary command there. If you didn't update your Python, this won't work. So it's good. That's why we did that previous step to update our Python. So just highlight the .command there and right click and open, and it'll ask you to confirm. Just press OK, and there we go. That's proprietary there. And what we do with this, we just go to File and Open, and we'll go to the EFI folder on our hard drive, and we'll go to the OC folder and just the config.p list and open that there. And again, just right click on root and collapse all, just make it a bit simpler to read. And now we need genSMBIOS open too, so if we expand that one, again right click on the .command and open. It'll ask you to verify, just click open, and there we go. Right, so we need several options. The only option we need is number 3, which is generate the SMBIOS. So just click 3 and press enter, and that'll go and talk to whatever it needs to talk to, and it should come back with a input. There we go. Now this is asking what kind of Mac are we trying to install. If I just make that a bit smaller so you can see, or maybe not. Okay, if we left click on here and go down to platform info go to generic. We are trying to spoof an iMac 14,4. So if you go back to your genSMBIOS and just type in exactly what it said there, so iMac 14,4, and press enter. And there we go. That's excuse me. That's generated our codes, and we need to put these codes into here. So the MLB is the motherboard serial number. So that one is board serial there. So just double click on there to copy. Go back to your proprietary, highlight that, and press Command if you've got an Apple keyboard, or Windows and V, and that will copy that into there. Press enter. Excellent. And now the serial number, copy that, and that goes into system serial number there. Again, Command and V, and enter. And this large one here is this one here. So just highlight that entire string, copy, and V in there. So that is your Mac ID created. And just quit out of that. Process complete. Or shut that one down. Now this will take effect next time we reboot the system. There's also a couple of things we can change here as well. So if we go to MISC and boot, we can actually turn off the boot menu if you want to boot straight into macOS, or actually without having to select it or wait for it to time out. So just double click on that to false. We also can turn off the actual verbose logging, which I'm just trying to remember where that one was. It's not a biggie, we can leave it on. So once we've done that, just click on File and Save. So that is now saved to the hard drive. So I'm just going to pull out the USB stick. There we go, disappeared. And just click on Restart. And restart. Now this should just restart the computer and boot straight into macOS. There we go, that's a good start. As you see, it skipped the boot menu because we turned that off. We can change this, that's one of that list of boot arguments, we can turn that off. That's in the P list as well. But at least you can see it's actually doing something. There we go, that's always a good sign. And if we go to About Mac, and there we go, we have our serial number. So that's it, that is macOS installed on a Lenovo M93p. I hope you got some benefit from these videos. They're my first ones I've done, so forgive my ropey presentation. Hopefully I'll get better. But there we go, this has been a pretty simple job, to be honest. And yeah, enjoy your new Macs, and I'll catch you on the next videos. Bye bye for now.